Welcome back to the show. We're live from .local, New York City, 2024. Once again, my name is Michael Lin. I'm a developer advocate at MongoDB. So excited to have you join us on the live stream and to welcome our guests. And before we welcome our guests, just going to do a little bit of an ad read.
Nice.
Yeah. Uncork is the first codeless development platform reshaping how organizations create, manage, and run their software applications without the constraints of traditional coding. Through Uncork's codeless architecture standard, Uncork is pioneering the next big migration beyond the cloud, freeing businesses from legacy code to propel their business forward. Uncork serves enterprises of all sizes, providing industry-tailored solutions for customers in financial services, insurance, government, high-tech, and healthcare. And with that, I'd like to welcome my guests, Jason Cust and Thomas Ravensburger.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
By the way, you did that.
Yeah, how was that, right?
That was amazing.
It's not your first time. I should be a podcaster, maybe.
I think you found the right business. I really do. But yeah, no, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here and very excited to be on the podcast. Yeah. So I am Tom Ravensburger. I am the director of DevOps here at Uncork, and
I'm Jason Cust. I'm the director of data engineering at Uncork. Yeah, welcome. Terrific. So did you check out the keynote and some of the announcements that were made?
Yeah, some exciting stuff, especially when we look at the query performance improvements like that.
Yeah.
A huge thing that's going to lead to better efficiency use of the systems.
Yeah.
We're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, fantastic.
yeah, we for us, it's always a specific challenge to create a codeless solution, right? That is performant.
Yeah.
Right. So every single enhancement that you guys provide for us, it's something that we can give directly to our clients.
Yeah,
so we're always excited.
Right on it.
Yeah.
So, okay, for folks joining us that have not heard of Uncork, maybe tell us what is it, how does it work, and why should developers care?
Yeah, so basically what we're trying to do is actually make it easier for a lot of organizations who want to have a myriad of different applications. They usually have to find off-the-shelf solutions, do some tweaks, try to get it to work. But, the iteration time on those is going to be 6 months, a year. It takes a long time. So what we have is a codeless architecture that allows you to rapidly build and release and have a continuous release cycle, meaning like as you make changes, they go live, right? So it's a very interesting approach. And part of it is you're not coding. It's just basically combining different, we call components in our modules. And then basically as you promote those into your production environment, it's live and running. And that basically, the abstraction also applies to your data layer. So where Mongo sits in that.
Okay.
So our clients are not directly having to manage their performance, anything related to maintenance, and looking at query optimizations or any kind of that stuff that's auto-managed through our system. So it's another way of helping our clients just move faster to get to the delivery that they want to have.
And one of the things I always like to say is building software is easy. It's everything else that's hard, right? And Uncork solves that problem for you, right?
Yeah.
The maintenance, the updates, the upkeep, the scalability, the stability of the platform, right? That's nothing you have to worry about as an engineer on the Uncork platform.
So as an organization, if you think about your spend, right? So you'll spend, if you think about your total budget of the life cycle of your application, 100%. Well, probably 10 or 20% of that is actual in the first build, getting it up and running. That's where your actual real value comes from your teams building out your systems. The rest of it is maintaining it over the lifetime, right? So making sure it's scaling at the right level so for the right sort of, usage that you're seeing. And then making sure like, okay, well, now there's a new version of this lower level technology. Do we have to migrate to that to make sure we're, so we abstract that all away.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's like, if you're talking about front end concerns, Angular, React, whatever the, de jour, like kind of like thing you want to do that day, you don't have to worry about that. We will auto manage that for you.
So I'm envisioning a drag and drop interface.
Yep.
I get some nice components that are like popular user interface controls. What about connection to the back end? Is that facilitated with Uncork?
So again, I'll turn this over to Tom. He can talk much more, like that actually falls into a really strong security model that we have built over the back end, meaning like not just the servers, but your data, right? So in that regards, they don't have to be aware of that. Again, they're just building interfaces and building operational concerns. How that gets managed is through the system. And I can turn it over to Tom, but he can talk a little about the infrastructure about that.
Yeah, of course. And to Jason's point, it's all that stuff, right? We mentioned the code upkeep and maintenance and all the things along those lines, but we're really, really concerned, right, about the security, right? You're losing your data, right? Losing your IP. Those are huge costs, right, as well. So one of the biggest like benefits you can get by using Unqork is our extremely mature security model that we have and our continuous threat detection that we run. So to the point of what you're asking, yes, it's your data. It's your encryption keys, right? But we secure it all. So you're not even directly connecting to the database, right? We add that layer of security and abstraction around that so that, yes, it's still your data, but it gets all the benefits of actually being in a secure bubble there.
Yeah.
And all our clients are single tenant architecture. So their data is even physically separated from each other client as well for each environment itself. So we have a MongoDB cluster per environment. So they can't even be noisy neighbors to themselves.
So that was my next question. And you bring me to how Uncork and MongoDB work together.
Oh, so I think we're probably one of the more interesting clients that Mongo has, if not just a very unique unicorn in a sense. So whereas most clients of Mongo will say, okay, well, we have a cluster that we'll use for our development.
Mm-hmm.
We have a cluster that we'll use for our production. We do that at scale for all of our clients, right? So we'll have at least 3 different clusters for different uses. So for the development, for the testing, and then for the production releases. And that means we have well over 900 clusters, right? So whereas...
Thank you.
So like, it's one of those things that, you know, it especially for someone like Tom, who's got to try to manage all that infrastructure.
I can't imagine.
It's insane. And then for someone like me and my team who's looking at how do we analyze performance, how do we make sure that, you know, these things are running as efficiently, as effectively as they can, that's also a very big thing to do, especially if you're trying to log in and look at everything individually. Like you're not going to have a team that can scale and do that.
Yeah, while the Atlas admin interface is phenomenal, I can imagine that with 900 instances, it's going to be a challenge.
Oh, it's exceptionally.
It's exceptionally challenging. But like, you know, to that point, right, I think it speaks a lot to the Atlas API, right? And so because the Atlas UI is great, right? Say we've identified a cluster that's misbehaving one way or another, right? We still have that Atlas API or Atlas UI to get in, really dig into it, the performance, where's the long running queries, things along those lines, right? But really where I would say Atlas is our big strength and our great partnership is the API and being able to really manage our fleet. Because that's when we talk about our clusters, our MongoDB, it's about the fleet level, right? Because it's about 900 clusters. How do you do that, right? And for us, we have to automate all of that. And we couldn't do that without the Atlas API. And like not having to worry about all the things that Atlas does for our hosting of the MongoDB clusters as well.
Yeah. And so from my perspective, so working with Tom very closely, we also have to provide him with analysis on what's going on and happening. So again, love the metrics panel when you go in. Love looking at all the like the slow query logs, performance advisors, all that stuff. It's wonderful. But again, at scale that we're talking, it's not practical for us. But the API provides that information actually in a much more informational way because we can get back the raw information, not just what's being presented on the screen in a beautiful UI, but we're actually getting the raw log information. So we can bring that into our own data warehouse. We do an analysis. We have a nice engine that's picking up some stuff, and then we can feed that back into the system to really help us, you know, manage the entire fleet.
Yeah. So Uncork has a beautiful user interface at the front end where your users come in and build their applications. But I'm kind of guessing there's probably like an admin interface that front ends the calls to Atlas API and manages your fleet from that, right?
Well, so our clients don't have to manage. That's the beauty of this, right? So,
well, no. I mean, for you.
Oh, for us. Yeah. That's for the managing of that. That's all of his team.
We're a DevOps land, so we run a lot of automation, so Ansible and Terraform and things like those lines. So like that's more of our purview of this, right? We also suck in the metrics to our observability tools as well that allow us to easily manage the fleet for like aggregated view as well. Yeah.
So you're looking after performance of the fleet and making sure that all of the folks leveraging your platform are getting good response times. What about performance of the applications that are built with Uncork?
Yeah, so I mean, traditionally, this is like one of the things we talk about in that 80% cost, right? So you've built your applications, they're up and running. Over time, data sets change, query behavior changes, things like that. So what happens? You sit there and someone in your DevOps office says, hey guys, our database is on fire, man. Can you go check that out? Right? And first thing you have to say is like, why it's on fire? And you have to go sifting through your logs and you have to think, oh, wow, these queries are really not performing well. What can we do? So again, going back to these beautiful APIs that you get from Atlas, is we're constantly bringing in metrics information. We're bringing in like index usage, all this other stuff. We're bringing it in. We're making an analysis that we have this algorithm that basically says, oh, you know what? This thing that no one likes to do manually anyways, it's automated for you. So our clients never have to think about that. We will automatically adjust the indexing around their query structures and usage and data patterns. Wow. So basically, we pass it off to his team. His team has a windows of deployment. They manage that.
What? So as a developer leveraging Unqork, I'm not really super concerned about my index patterns, and
you don't even have to think about it. And that's the beauty of it. Because like to the point of what Jason's saying, we're doing all that background analytics on a daily basis. So let's say, And so if your query pattern, your data modeling is shifted at all, it's going to pick that up and say, okay, we need to remove this index and add a new one. And all of that is done automatically on the back end.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like, as a developer, you're going to say, oh, I'm going to write this query and the data's probably going to look like, you're going to take a guess.
Yeah.
You're going to make some testing around your assumptions. And you're going to say, okay, the cardinality is going to be this. So I'm going to have my index look like that. And that should be great. And I'm going to send it off. And fine, it's running in production. But the use case is actually different now, right?
Yeah.
People are using it differently. They're querying it differently. And so now it's like, well, I have to go back and reevaluate all that. No. Our system's already been analyzing that and saying, we're going to change that index to be this for you out of vacuum.
So really, a reimagination of the paradigm for the software developer.
Oh, yeah.
We're removing that, a lot of the concerns that
it's all about getting them to the finish line first. And so they can start working on the next innovative thing, right? So if they're constantly having to work on maintenance, they're not working their next best value add to their clients.
Innovation.
Exactly. Right. And we always see like a common pattern in software development, right? The more and more code you write, the more and more or less and less innovation that actually comes out.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with so much of that maintenance and upkeep.
Yeah.
We remove that from you.
Yeah.
Keep on innovating, right? That's what we want.
We're basically like the, junkyard war people, but for tech debt. We're going to take your tech debt, right? Like, don't worry about that. You can start doing next stuff.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So as you're working with more and more customers and they're innovating faster, what are some of the challenges that they're facing?
Well, again, one was the basically how do you maintain that performance over time?
Yeah.
So we're helping them with that. The other thing, again, is talking about and I'll turn this over to him, just like how, so again, are you properly sized for your applications at that usage pattern at that time?
Yeah.
Right. So that's something that Tom's team has to manage.
Yeah. So we are always constantly reevaluating the usage, right? The right sizing. So we've actually even created analytics that actually constantly is looking at the current sizes of the environment and making suggestions of whether or not, hey, they might need some more resources or we can take some away, right? So we're always trying to learn from the real data usage of our clients and our end users. Yeah. So that way we can be as proactive and addressing any known issues coming out, right? Because a lot of times, to your point, they won't even know that there will be an issue about the change they made, right? So we have to be as proactive as we can and really bring that tool set to them, right? The end developer, so that way they can make all the informed decisions that they need to.
Yeah.
And again, being able to do that is based and predicated on those APIs that give us this information, right? So a lot of other systems, when you set them up, it's like, well, how do I get any performance? I've got to add an APM. I've got to order this. So the APIs are already there. Atlas already has it all provided. So we're just basically slurping it up, analyzing it, and being able to make informed decisions.
Yeah. So most low code, no code platforms fall into like a specific industry use case.
Yeah.
Does Uncork have a sweet spot, like an industry?
I mean, so all of our stuff is meant to be generic.
Yeah.
Right. So it's basically think about Lego blocks, right? Okay. So you're starting with a Lego block and you can say, well, if you any Lego fans out there, you start building the same little units over and over and over and over again. So now you're building these okay, I got these reusable pieces now, but those reusable pieces, depending on how you put them together, can do different things.
Yeah.
And so that's the power of Uncork. We do have a certain sector of the industry that really, they were first adopters. They really got into it and it's been a really good sweet spot for us. But we have clients across that entire spectrum from, government, health, finance. It's just across the board. But finance is one of those big sweet spots was.
Yeah, great. So what about customer use cases? Is there any customers you can call out?
They're all over the place.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit all over the place. I mean, we play big, it's, even though we say we're kind of a generic solution, usually meaning the big players in any specific field are, which is not the case with us. Okay. Right. So we're getting some of the biggest financial institutions, insurance companies, that are trusting Uncork to make very system critical systems up. Right. So
can't always mention those names.
Can't always mention them. And, as much as I would love to, I also don't want to get, my phone will start buzzing. So.
But so to this point, though, the reason why it's successful there is these finance companies in the insurance industry also have looked at us and said, you can actually help us quickly and iterate, again, driving value fast.
Yeah.
To build these decision making. So if you're an insurance claim processor, you got to be able to alter that based on, regulatory changes, policy changes, things like that. And if you have to continually go through a typical development cycle of 6 months to a year, that's a long time. You're not responsive to what's happening in your industry. So with us, though, it's a configuration change, push, done. There's you have to worry about massive code changes at that point.
So my first job, I worked as a systems developer, and I built I worked on a team that built a fourth generation language. That's what they used to be called. And there was always this annoying trade-off between ease of use and flexibility. And there were always edge cases where some business logic just wouldn't fit into the tool. So we had to break out of the tool. Do you find that with Uncork? Is there any, am I giving anything up?
No, I mean, and I'll be honest, in our early days, there was a lot of that. So especially when you looked at like the UI components, things like that, we had this thing we called the content component initially, back in the day. And that was to sort of break out of the box. You can kind of do your own little thing if you had to do some things. But what we found over time as the product matured and we've learned about those edge cases from how they were being used, we were able to model the new features coming out to actually start to chip away at those things. And then on the same thing, when you're talking about like again, if you're thinking about, I have a financial mechanism that has to go through a formula, it's like, well, that's going to be this crazy thing. It's like, well, no, we actually built a component that allows you basically as like sort of like a Excel formula. You can kind of configure this crazy thing out and just set it up and just walk away.
And I would add just like the robustness and just kind of what Unqork allows you to do. Like you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. Like we'll probably let you do too much. Like and we're a little too over generous to that sometimes. But like to that point though, we really want people to see it as a development language to kind of what your point is, right? And it really is a new way to look at software engineering.
I think it was like year 2, I think, of the company. So it would have been like 2019 or early 2020. We had an in-house analyst actually try see if we're Turing complete just by utilizing our system. And he went through and he has a beautiful white paper that's up. I think it's still available on Unqork.com. Maybe before. But it goes through and actually, by that point, we were already Turing complete. So it was just amazing to see, like, we actually had this programming, it's effectively not program, it's a programming language. And right? It's a high level abstraction.
It's quite an achievement.
So we were pretty impressed by that.
So I always like to ask guests, obviously got a lot of experience in the software industry. But things are changing so rapidly today. I mean, it's hard to even predict like next month, but I want to ask you to put your future seeing hat on. And what does software development look like in the future for you?
I mean, with AI and everything coming out there, I mean, I look at it as like accelerated. Everything's accelerating. I've been in the industry for 20 something years now. And I remember when I first started, it's like you could pick a language and that was your career. And then over time we saw like, you got 5 to 7 years of a language, maybe something like that. And now that iteration is just going faster and faster. And I think AI is actually going to do that. So I think in a way, as we're trying to make it easier from this perspective for people to be faster in developing innovation, AI is going to bring that same sort of level to everyone in whatever language, whatever system you're working on, because you're not going to worry about the minutia of it. You're going to be worrying about more the system design, more of how the system works together and what you're trying to achieve, which is, again, where that money value add is. It's not necessarily an implementation, but in actually building out that whatever deliverable. You're
very much in line with the philosophy.
Yeah. And I just to add to that, I very much agree with Jason. And I think it's going to be the exact same pattern that you're seeing with Unqork right now, right? Which is more simplification, more unification, right? Because right now, still, when you hear the new languages, all this stuff that comes out, right? It's still just a new service by itself, right? Really, where we continue to see is orchestration, right? Simplification, right? How do all my disjointed systems work with one another, right? AI, generative AI, tools like Unqork, things along those lines that make all of this simpler, bring it all together where you don't have to worry about the nitty gritty. To me, that's where we're going to see the most maturity in software development.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today. Uncork can get more information at uncork.com.
Hey, it's great. I have to say, visit uncork.com/guided-tour. All right. Yes, I was told I had to say that.
Bravo. Nice job.
His pitch is not as good as yours.
No. He's like, I don't think I'm taking your job.
So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.